Hello, Hare Krishna. My name is Jvalamukhi, and this is the video journal of the book that I've written called My Hoo-Hoo and the Destiny of the Universe, the Golden Age, the Great Sinister Movement, and the Firewalk of Hare Krishna Kid. This is, I'm calling them the J files, and this is video number 13. I hope I didn't misspeak. I believe we're on number 13. Yes, I did 11, 12. Yeah, this is video number 13. I'm picking up where I left off, describing being in Sweden and having, for the first time, some feelings around the separation of my parents, because when they got divorced, shortly before I went there, I was numb, and I actually was super happy that they'd gotten divorced. But when I came back in contact with Krishna and was feeling separation from him, from the temple environment, and from my family unit, I was remembering the good parts of our lives, and not just the hard parts. It's always mixed, right? My mother was always engaged in doing meaningful puppet shows or music activities for the kids, all centered on Krishna. She took endless care of the children, a more than full-time job, and got very little help, mostly grief, in the immature, harsh dealings that went on back in the day, and maybe still does go on. Maybe my parents would have made it if we had stayed near the temples, I thought, if we weren't alone in the material world, so to speak, surrounded by covered enemies in the form of family members. All they had was each other, and that wasn't enough. My mother would do puppet shows for the kids during Sunday feast, and they were actually more popular than the Sunday feast class. Everybody would flock around them, and she had such amazing service for the devotees, and I believe that is why she was very targeted. They didn't want that purity and that sweetness. They wanted something else. A month later, there was a 2-week vacation from the high school that I had attended in Luleå, Sweden. I was invited down to Stockholm by a new boyfriend, Petter. I accepted the invitation, but I didn't want to stay at his house. I did have morals and standards after all. I would never stay over at some boy's house. I thought, how can I make this work? So I got the idea to call the Hare Krishna temple and see if I could stay there during my visit. They welcomed me, especially because I introduced myself as a Guru Kuli. I took the 22-hour train ride and was greeted at the station by a shiny, friendly face. Being at the temple again after so many years felt both exciting and plain normal. After all, I grew up in temples all across the U.S. This one was just in another country, but everything felt exactly the same. The smell of incense and the ghee coming from the kitchen. The temple president and his wife took a liking to me and took me under their wing. They felt that they had to look out for me and my newly awakened spiritual life, my rededication to Krishna. To them, I am very, very thankful. I would like to give a big shout out to Manidhar Prabhu and Mitravinda for my spiritual life reawakening. Thank you again to my foster parents in Sweden. Much love and obeisances to you. Thank you. I never even called the boyfriend. I saw him many months later at some event that the Govinda's restaurant was hired to cater. He was a model on a catwalk. Peter was his name. Beautiful boy, really, and curious about spiritual matters and truth. It was quite embarrassing for me, though. There I stood in front of him, dressed in my sari and tilak, my sacred clay decorating my forehead. I hadn't even let him know that I was there or that I wasn't coming. I was too scared that I would choose him instead of Krishna, like I would have in the past. I did not want to chance it. I knew how powerful the illusory energy of the Lord is, how powerful Maya is, especially in the form of the opposite sex. I did not want to get caught up again. I wasn't strong enough yet in my commitment to the Lord. I was chicken to face him. Sorry, Peter. I officially went AWOL from my exchange student program. I went back up north to get my things. I thanked my host mother, Shashtin, for all of her kindness. She was the only one brave enough to host a Hare Krishna Kid. I was the last one to be adopted from orientation camp, and I spent 2 weeks wondering if I shouldn't have left the "What is your religion?" form blank. She was kind and said that she figured that I would do something like this. I still feel very grateful to her. May she receive the Lord's blessings. I moved into the women's ashram, the place of spiritual study, and dedicated myself to the practice of bhakti yoga, reconnecting to the Lord in the heart. I was, for all intents and purposes, a born-again Hare Krishna Kid, even down to my ferocious, fanatical stage. It's called the Pure Devotee Syndrome, or PDS. I like to call it a born-again Hare Krishna. I called my parents, and I told them that I was staying in Sweden, renouncing my college scholarship to attend the art program at the university, and that I would not be coming home anytime soon. Their reaction was priceless and was as expected. The funny thing was that they had raised me with the intention that I would love Krishna and take shelter of his representative, Srila Prabhupada. Now that I was doing just that at the age of 18 and telling them that they were in Maya, living in the Andakupam, the deep dark well of material existence, they seemed to be conflicted. They did the same thing to their parents when they found Krishna. Now here I was, doing it to them. Quite poetic, actually, except that they were supposed to be the ones instructing me on the principles of bhakti yoga, not the other way around. Yes, they had fallen away from their vows during the social turbulence of ISKCON in the infamous 80s. Who could blame them? Anyway, I gave up my anger toward my father and let it go at that time. I scratched everything from before. I burned my journals and started over. I thought to myself, if I ever want to look back on my life, it was all Maya, and I don't want to remember any of it. So I will destroy all record of it so I won't be tempted in the future. I was an empowered adult now. It was safe to interact with my father again on my terms. At that time, I had no memory of the sexual abuse, and I had no feelings of animosity. I was busy rediscovering Krishna. Another song that I've written is called Not Alone. This material world is not at all what it seems to be. It's just a temporary place full of suffering and misery. And just when you think you got everything how you want it to be, it all comes crashing down with alarming consistency. But you're not alone. No, you're not alone. Not alone. No, you're not alone. Realization. God is carrying me, helping me in ways that I cannot see, even when I think that I am alone. I see his hand steering me towards freedom. I go at my own pace. The more that I want him, the more intense my lessons become. I am going to rant now. It always amazes me that people who practice religion and talk about the soul seem to have very little practical realization of what that means, being a soul. The soul is a divine spark of consciousness from which the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false ego manifest. From that subtle body that feels, thinks, and wills, the gross body is formed. The very fact that we have a physical body is due to desire, is due to feeling, is due to emotions. If we do not recognize and accept our feelings, and then honestly utilize and purify them in the genuine service of the Lord, then we are cheaters. We will form another temporary body at death because of our unwillingness and cowardice to face our past choices that resulted in our present state of being. Without developing pure sentiments, all other spiritual rituals and practice are simply like drops of water on the mountain range of our false egos. It will take eons for them to be effective in clearing our mountain of illusions because, in essence, their only purpose is to change our sentiments, our feelings, our free will. All religion is useless unless we develop our love of Krishna, love of God. The whole purpose of spiritual practice is to remember our loving relationship with the Lord, which is a feeling. Knowledge and detachment are byproducts, not the goal. Lecture on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 7. This is in Vrindavan, October 18th, 1972, by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. If you actually engage in the devotional service of Vasudeva, Krishna, God, then Jnana, knowledge, and Vairagya, detachment, automatically becomes revealed unto you. There is no endeavor. How many classes, how many sermons, end quote, how many classes, sermons have I sat through wherein the speaker goes on and on and on about how we are not this body and then proceeds to ignore, abuse, and misuse the very same sacred vehicle that was gifted to them by God, either their own or someone else's. This is simply nonsense. If we are not the body and it belongs to Krishna, then why be so fearful to face what is inside? It is a gift, after all, for our reformation of consciousness, and all our painful contents are clues to where we went wrong in our original relationship with the Lord. After one such lecture on the subject of spiritual emotions, I walked up to the speaker afterwards and said, Prabhu, how can we hope to understand spiritual emotion, transcendental emotion, if we don't even understand material emotions? He snorted. Spoken like a true woman. I snapped back. Case and point. I felt disheartened. These are my seniors. Self-realization means to recognize the package we find ourselves in and work our way backwards out of the choices that landed us in the present body. How is it spiritually responsible to dismiss the body as unimportant due to its temporary nature and thus abuse it and the body of others? God has custom made it for our particular, quote, lessons in love. Why not get real instead of posturing and denying personalism, feelings? Just put it behind you and chant Hare Krishna, Prabhu, aka ignore and deny, stuff it and move on, fake transcendentalists. That's like saying if you put all your junk in the closet and never open the door, then you'll be just fine. Just keep chanting, ha. That which you resist persists. Why not just be honest? Why not just be honest? The soul is highly sentient. We cannot deny or stuff our emotions and practice real spiritual life. After all, bhakti yoga is a feeling, means love of Godhead. Love is a feeling. You cannot be unfeeling. You cannot be impersonal. You cannot be fake. It doesn't work. Why are you chanting? Why are you reading Srimad Bhagavatam if you're not willing to look at the emotions underneath everything? That's the entire point of this whole exercise. It is Mayavada, or impersonalism, also known as self-cheating. Just look at the social disaster that was achieved by such attitudes hiding behind so-called Krishna conscious philosophy. If we were properly situated in our attitudes, then there would be happy families and satisfied renunciants. We would love Krishna and each other if we were honest. What more proof that a major redirect back to Srila Prabhupada's mood is needed, and that the current state of affairs is a massive deviation from his teachings? But I get ahead of myself. End of rant. I had some understanding that physical illness is caused by subtle illness. The body is a subtle learning suit. Each pain or area of dysfunction has a lesson in consciousness, its source, for us to learn. We either get it in the whisper or we must get it in the hammer. We can either choose to deny it, numb it with painkillers, subdue the symptoms with pharmaceuticals, or cut it out with surgery, or we can choose to face it by listening to the honest body. The body cannot lie to us. We can listen to the body and the subtle body and unpack the story around it and release the emotions that are stored in our consciousness, our subconsciousness. And we can do this all in connection with God in our hearts, the whole purpose of material creation. Quote, unless one is situated on the transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness, he cannot get free from the influence of the three modes of material nature. Transcendence happens when we learn from our bodily situation, seeing it as connected to Krishna, not denying it, thinking that it is material. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 33, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature, for everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? Unless one is situated on the transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness, he cannot get free from the influence of the modes of material nature, as is confirmed by the Lord in the 7th chapter, 7:14. Therefore, even for the most highly educated person on the mundane plane, it is impossible to get out of the entanglement of Maya simply by theoretical knowledge or by separating the soul from the body. There are many so-called spiritualists who outwardly pose as advanced in the science, but inwardly or privately are completely under particular modes of nature which they are unable to surpass. Academically, one may be very learned, but because of his long association with material nature, he is in bondage. Krishna consciousness helps one to get out of the material entanglement, even though one may be engaged in his prescribed duties in terms of material existence. End of quote. The body is the guru. It teaches where we hold on to falsity, to fear. If we fail to face this and run away to treat symptoms, what is our so-called path of self-realization really about? Srila Prabhupada told us to first become conscious, then become Krishna conscious. How then can we ignore, be in ignorance of our learning suits, these bodies, subtle and gross? It is not Krishna conscious to abuse the body, to treat it like a throwaway vehicle, to dishonor the body, subtle body also, the mind, the intelligence, the emotions, or the physical body, to work yourself into such a state that you actually kill yourself, physically harm yourself, to dishonor your body. This body doesn't belong to us. It is leased. It was given to us by Mother Nature, Father God, Krishna, and we have to take care of it as we would take care of a special gift. We have to learn to love ourselves. We are in these bodies. How are we going to love God if we abuse ourselves, neglect ourselves? Loving God begins with self-love. And if you love yourself, you don't abuse other people. Just saying. Of course, modern science is great for acute problems and broken, cut-up limbs, perfect for emergencies. But why wait for a feeling to be ignored so much that it has to become physically manifest for one to pay attention to it? Why wait for chronic disease to manifest before we are willing to look at ourselves deeply? Better to always be introspective, to be pursuing purity and functionality on all levels. I call this phenomena idiot lights. Just as a car has warning lights on the display to indicate when to change the oil, air pressure, tires, etc. Similarly, the body puts out warning signals. Only an idiot ignores the lights and waits for the car to run out of oil or gas before stopping to fill it up. How bad do we have to hurt before we are willing to stop and ask ourselves, what is this body trying to tell me? And that's true on the physical level and the emotional level. After all, you are the soul within the physical body, within the emotional body. You are the driver, you are the witness, and you have to pay attention. You have to protect your vehicle. You have to use it to cross over this ocean of birth and death and hopefully help as many others come out. One of the greatest forms of self-delusion, victimhood, is to believe that the body manifests disease or dysfunction without our asking for it, in this life or in a previous one. All the imperfections are perfect, showing us where to adjust and continue. Perfectly made for self-realization, the whole goal of this cosmic manifestation. Quote from Sri Ishopanishad Invocation. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is perfectly complete, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. By our desires and actions, we form the vehicle we are in. Sorry, that was end quote. These are my words. By our desires and actions, we form the vehicle that we are in, like it or not. Isn't it time to stop recreating pain for ourselves and others? Stop being born again and again, growing old, getting sick, and dying again and again? Reincarnation is not a belief, it is a law of nature. Isn't it time we face the emotions and the circumstances that made our present body? Will we choose to live this way just this once? One more life? Can we offer this one last life to Krishna? Bhagavad Gita quote 15:9. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped around the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. So I have a note here to myself to put in a section on psychology and the repression of body memories. And I do have a book, many books actually, on the topic, and I can go into that, but I'm not sure if that's really what I wanted to do here. I'm making these videos for sincere spiritual seekers, and if you can't understand the very basics, that this isn't false memory, then you're probably in the wrong place here. So the anatomy of the soul is that we are eternally parts and parcels of the Lord. Very, very tiny, but same in quality, different in quantity. And we are here in this place of matter because of a mood anomaly. We left the eternal realm because of some mood anomaly that begins small and then gradually gets bigger. Essentially, the mood is being a separate enjoyer instead of a servant. So the Lord is very kind. He doesn't interfere with our free will. And he grants our desires by creating a place, the material world, with all its vast universes and planets and different kinds of bodies, for us to all discover that the only source of our true happiness is to be in our original position. But just like a child who doesn't feel satisfied living in their family home, they need to go out in the big world and discover that for themselves, how good they have it. That's what this material world is. And when the child realizes, wow, I really had it good there, and I don't want to be out here in this big bad world, then they go home. And that's the whole purpose of this plot here. So this video blog is my journey of that phenomenon. Thank you again for your kind attention. I really appreciate all your comments. I'm not able to answer all of them, but know that I am reading them, and I really am basking in your encouragement and your love and the spirit of uniting again under Srila Prabhupada's mood and instructions. So thank you very much, and please share these videos with anyone whom you think they will be helpful to. My audience, I hope, will also extend to those who still have not yet found Krishna, who are looking for true spiritual life. You can always visit our website, our endeavor at starting over again, www.purelyprabhupada.com, PURELYPRABHUPADA.com. Thank you again. Hare Krishna.